Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, and today I'll be talking about the High Priestess. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. I have a couple announcements this episode. So the best way to support the podcast right now is to check out Patreon. Supporting me there will give you access to upcoming podcast episode topics, digital downloads I've created, and monthly tarot hangouts. Link will be in the show notes to check that out. And you can always go to my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot to see images of the cards, any extra show notes, and any of the links for folks or anything, resources that I talk about. All right, so welcome to the main discussion and to season 2 of the podcast. So in the first season, I introduced tarot through talking about oracle versus tarot cards, myths of tarot, how to find a deck, reading for yourself versus reading for others, and much more. In season 2, we're going to be going through the first 13 cards of the major arcana, one per episode. So today I'll be talking about the High Priestess. So the High Priestess, the number associated with this card is 2, and this felt fortuitous because this comes out on January 22nd, actually. So depictions of the High Priestess. So on the decks I like to use most right now, the Goddess of Love Tarot deck, that one depicts the goddess Isis as the High Priestess. Isis is the most revered goddess in ancient Egypt. She used her magic to bring her husband Osiris back from the dead. She made love to him to usher in a new eon of peace and prosperity through the birth of their magical child Horus. And she's a prismatic goddess that rules over necromancy as well as love, family, the earth, and magic. So on this particular card, the depiction shows Isis in the middle. There's sort of 2 pillars on either side. The moon, the full moon is above all of those things. There's a gold chair with hieroglyphics on it, and then there's 3 pink and cream colored roses. So one of my other decks, the Anima Mundi deck, depicts the High Priestess as a barn owl. In the deck description for this card, it says an owl, symbol of the Greek goddess Athena, emerges from the inky black, clutching the scrolls of knowledge in her talons. So owls, I think we associate with being wise, that they see and know all. They're awake at night to hunt. There's also on this particular card, so it's really just an owl with a scroll in her talons, and then there's 3 pomegranates and like their branches underneath where she flies. Usually pomegranates represent the underworld and sort of Persephone's journey. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in the meanings part. So meanings for this card is the High Priestess. The High Priestess is the ruler of the unconscious, listening to your inner voice, relying on your intuition, and paying attention to your dreams and instincts, right? If you think of owls, they're awake at night, they hunt in the darkness, sort of like the subconscious. And other meanings are sort of embracing your feminine side. In a Wiccan setting, the High Priestess is usually the one that conducts the rites or rituals. So they're sort of the person that brings people together on this quest for spirituality and magic. So as depicted by the owl on the Anima Mundi deck, they talk about the Greek goddess Athena. And Athena is associated with war and being a warrior. They are a Greek goddess associated with wisdom, which again sort of goes back to that owl depiction. Athena was seen as a protector of cities, and actually the city of Athens, Greece, is named after her. And the Parthenon on the Acropolis of Athens is dedicated to her as well. So she was seen as a leader, leading soldiers into battle with sort of this military prowess. Athena also presided over household crafts and protected the king. And one of those crafts I found in some research was like weaving in particular, which I thought was interesting. So again, Athena is sort of associated with knowledge, with wisdom, but also being that warrior, and sometimes maybe having to be brutal, but out of protectiveness. Um, she was often seen either as an owl herself or as a bird goddess and sort of associated with that. Like I said, with sort of this military prowess, it sounds like Athena was seen as very strategic, um, whereas Ares, a different sort of god of war, was seen as much more of this like brutal physical force of war. Athena was much more associated with like the oversight or having a lot of plans associated with it. So there's different sort of multifaceted natures of thinking about the high priestess. So there's like sort of the shadowy and the light sides of the moon, which again in one of these cards, like on the Goddess of Love tarot deck, there is the moon sort of shows up there. Um, it says, listen to your intuition and value stillness before action. The high priestess is a mirror to your magic and inner knowing. She parts the veil to the occult mysteries and is sharing this with you now. So it's also seen as sort of this divine feminine, but also strategic and disciplined, which is sort of interesting. She was said to only support those fighting for a just cause. So again, more of this like planning, looking ahead, like oversight sort of aspect of fighting versus like the boots on the ground side of it. I also found another interesting tidbit when researching Athena. It said that she had created a like pebble-based form of divination, which almost sort of sounds like so right, tarot is a form of divination or has been seen that way. Almost like how runes are, but I guess runes have sort of images on them, but using different pebbles as sort of like casting stones and seeing what that might mean. The pebbles were called Thrarai, Thriai, which was the collective name of nymphs with prophetic powers, which I thought was interesting. And I guess it said that her half brother Apollo was jealous of like this method of divination and it felt like it was rivaling his own sort of powers, and he complained to their father Zeus about it, who is said to have like made the stones, basically taken their power away. I just thought that was interesting since we're talking about tarot and forms of divination. Yeah, so that is sort of the high priestess. Again, sort of different depictions of her, but a lot of power associated with it and sort of this leadership and oversight. So let's dive in and see what the cards have to say today. In the Goddess of Love tarot deck for this card, there's a journal prompt that says, what magic is the high priestess guiding me towards? And I was sort of thinking along these lines as we pull a card today, like what has my intuition picked up recently that I may have ignored? Sort of when we think about, again, that sort of oversight thing, like scanning everything that's sort of happened recently, like what is something that maybe stands out or sort of something that maybe didn't, yeah, you didn't realize at the time, but now as we're sort of talking about this comes to mind. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a card. Okay, and today I'm pulling a card from the Sasarabito Tarot deck by Stasia Barrington. So I pulled the Six of Pentacles reversed. And on the image of the card for this particular deck, there's two people sort of like facing each other, but as it's upside down, one person like is facing me and the other person isn't. So sort of this like give and take action. And they have like a string pulled like between them. So for the upright position of this card, it says an exchange of some kind takes place. It appears that some substance is being passed from one individual's mouth to the others. You will either receive or give something of great value. The black line symbolizes this gift: money, knowledge, assistance, or power. At first glance, it appears that the person on top is the giver and the person below the receiver. But is that really the case? Teachers learn from students. This card is an invitation to question our assumptions about the appearance of balance. There's a subtle interplay between the giver and the taker. Who are you in this equation? And so when we look at the reversal between the sort of give and take, have or have not, this idea of balance comes up. Reversed, it says a role as a giver or taker is too imbalanced. The danger is in giving so much that you're prone to being taken advantage of, or in taking more than your share, getting into debt, or becoming a burden. In a relationship, this could mean one partner is doing a lopsided amount of work. So when we think about this in the context of the High Priestess and the magic of the High Priestess, what she's guiding us toward today, what has your intuition picked up recently, is that maybe there's something that feels imbalanced in your life. Maybe it's in a relationship, a friendship, something where there's someone that's giving or taking sort of too much, and maybe you're taking more than your share. So maybe just, yeah, again, what comes to mind when you think about that? In what scenarios have you felt maybe taken advantage of, or the opposite, feeling like, oh, maybe I was dominating the conversation, or something like that. So, yeah, that's sort of what comes up for me today. Thinking about balance and just what sort of things have you maybe picked up on recently with your intuition that you may have ignored at the time, but now when you look back, you sort of realize like, ooh, that was pointing out something to me. Again, that was pointing out something that didn't feel right at the time, or maybe again like a friend dominating a conversation that you didn't speak up at the time, but now you look back and realize that you were pretty frustrated or not listening, because you were maybe becoming resentful, or like felt like they overstayed their welcome. All right, so that's what the cards have to say today. Links for the tarot decks will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast will come out daily, Monday through Friday, for all of 2025. See you soon. Bye bye.